Hey guys, this is your host Thomas Tyree here from On the Hop Podcast. Today, this will be Combat Series episode number 137 for you guys today. And to kick off the Combat Series, we'll start off in the sport of boxing, and I'll be sharing my fight prediction for this weekend's fight between Teofimo Lopez and Shakur Stevenson. So Teofimo Lopez will be defending his WBO and Ring Magazine titles at the super lightweight division against a reigning defending world champion is Shakur Stevenson, who is the WBC champion at lightweights, moving up from 135 to 140 with aspirations to become a four-division world champion. This is a monumental fight to kick off 2026. We're talking about some of the best fighters, top 10 pound-for-pound fighters in the world today in Teofimo Lopez and Shakur Stevenson, with aspirations to be the best in the sport. Doesn't get much bigger than this in the month of January in the sport of boxing. Storylines heading into this big, monumental championship fight. Is Shakur Stevenson ready to become a four-division world champion? Now, Shakur Stevenson has not hit the age of 30 years of age just yet. And this man is undefeated. This man is already a three-division world champion, and he's moving up, daring to be great, fighting the best world champion at 140 pounds has to offer today in Teofimo Lopez. Now, Shakur Stevenson has always had aspirations of fighting the best of the best. He's always called out the best. A lot of people call him Shakur Twitterson because he runs his mouth a lot on social media. But at the end of the day, Shakur Stevenson is a top 10 pound-for-pound fighter with aspirations to follow in the footsteps of his idols like Floyd Mayweather, Terrence Crawford, Andre Ward, because he wants to be the best of this era. And he's had aspirations for fighting other big names like Devin Haney, Conor Benn, Ryan Garcia, Vasily Lomachenko, Gervonta Davis. Now he gets that big opportunity against Teofimo Lopez to prove why he is considered one of the best in the sport today with aspirations to become a four-division world champion. And the final storyline is, can Teofimo Lopez rise to the occasion again? Now, say what you want about Teofimo Lopez. Has only lost one time in his boxing career, two-division world champion very early in his boxing career. Another fighter that has not even cracked 30 years of age in his boxing career. And Teofimo Lopez, in the biggest fights of his careers, always rises to the occasion. In championship fights, mind you. Go back to that COVID fight against Vasily Lomachenko. Vasily Lomachenko was known as a top 3 pound-for-pound fighter back in 2020 when he entered the ring against Vasily Lomachenko. He won that fight with flying colors. You go back to his performance in 2023 against Josh Taylor when he took the WBO and Ring Magazine world titles from Josh Taylor, passed that test with flying colors. You look at that fight that he had back in May on that Times Square card in New York, where he took it to Arnold Barboza, took his undefeated record, and passed that test with ease. So we're talking about Teofimo Lopez, who shines in big championship fights, minus that George Kambosos loss. But these are two fighters in the prime of their careers, itching and daring to be great. And the winner of this fight will pick up the biggest victory of their boxing career. So enough of the storylines. Let's get to the tail of the tape here. We'll start off with the challenger. Shakur Stevenson is 24-0. He's 24-0 in his boxing career, has 11 victories coming way of knockout. Currently the reigning defending WBC lightweight champion, stands at 5'8" with a reach of 68 inches. Then I'm looking at the champion, Teofimo Lopez. Teofimo Lopez has 22 wins, 1 loss in his boxing career, has 13 victories come away of knockout. Currently the reigning defending WBO and Ring Magazine super lightweight champion, stands at 5'9" with a reach of 69 inches. So I'm looking at the height and the reach goes a small favor of Teofimo Lopez. We'll see if he uses that height and reach to his advantage when these two respective fighters fight each other at Madison Square Garden. So these are the following game plans that I have for these fighters to follow if they want to walk out of Madison Square Garden with that coveted WBO and Ring Magazine world title. Starting off with the challenger, Shakur Stevenson. Now, I think an important game plan for Shakur Stevenson, he needs to fight at his own pace. And if Shakur Stevenson can fight at his own pace for however long this fight goes, I'm leaning towards 12 rounds. This could really play in the favor of the challenger, Shakur Stevenson, because if he fights at his own pace, that means he'll take his time. He'll fight off the back foot, use his defensive style. One of the best, I think the best defensive fighter in boxing, the best defensive fighter that we've seen since Floyd Mayweather retired. I think if he uses his defensive style to catch Teofimo Lopez off balance and off rhythm. That could lead to Teofimo Lopez being off balance, trying to throw punches. His feet aren't balanced, and that could open the door for Shakur Stevenson to make Teofimo Lopez pay the shoulder roll, the Philly shell, and land the jab. I think Shakur has one of the best jabs in the sport, or win the counter-punching battle. So I think that's very pivoted for Shakur Stevenson to fight at his own pace, use that defensive style to make Teofimo Lopez miss, catch him off guard, and then make a pay with the jab and the counter shots that he could throw on Teofimo Lopez. Next, that goes in my favor, what I just said, of the counter-punching battle. Shakur needs to win the counter-punching battle. Now, Shakur Stevenson fighting in the Philly shell and the high guard, it'll be very important for him in this fight against Teofimo Lopez to avoid the big shots that Teo might try to land, the significant punches that could wow the judges on the judges' scorecards, because you can never depend on the judges if you're not going to do your job in this modern era of boxing. We've seen it countless times, but getting back on track, opponents only land 16.7 of their punches against Shakur Stevenson. That's really impressive. So if Shakur Stevenson could tap into that Philly shell, the high guard, and win the counter-punching battle, this normally opens the door for Shakur to land the power shots. And I'm not saying that Shakur has knockout power, but I think he has enough power. Like, he's in that conversation with a fighter like Devin Haney or Teo in this instance, that they have enough power to make their opponents respect it. So Shakur, this could open the door for Shakur to land the power shots. The right hook is one of Shakur's best shots. Hopefully his hands are 100% healthy, land the right hook, and the body shots to slow down Teofimo Lopez and his offense approach as the later rounds go on in this fight. And last but not least, I think Shakur has to take Teofimo Lopez's best shots away. Take away his best attributes, the best shots that he could throw at you. And he did this against William Zepeda in Shakur's last performance when we've seen him in the boxing ring against William Zepeda in July. Like, he stood in the pocket. Shakur stood in the pocket and took away William Zepeda's best attributes, which was the counter shots, the power shots. And I think if he could do that with his defensive style, this will break the confidence of Teofimo Lopez, and he'll get frustrated as the fight goes on. So those are the following game plans that I have for the challenger and Shakur Stevenson. Now, for Teofimo Lopez, the champion, I think Teo should target the body. Now, Shakur, I just said he's the best defensive fighter in the sport. But if you go back and look at the tape, Shakur has been hit with some body shots. He's never been hurt, but he's been... Actually, you go back against Valdez when they fought back in 2022, 2023. Yeah, you could say Oscar Valdez hurt him with a power shot back nearly 4 years ago. So I've seen him hurt with some body shots in the past. And if Teo can... what Teo likes to do is he likes to trick his opponents with feints. And if you could trick Shakur, who has one of the best boxing IQs in the game, but if you could trick him with some feints, that could lead to Teo opening the door and landing some body shots on Shakur Stevenson. And Teo has done this time in and time out, and his best performance is setting up feints to go to the body to slow down his opponents. So that's a good trap of Teo, a good trap scenario where he can use the feints and land the body shots and some powerful body shots. And he's done this against southpaw fighters in the past. And what is Shakur Stevenson? He is a southpaw fighter. So we've seen him slow down Vasily Lomachenko really good with the powerful body shots, slowing down Loma, even though he was a smaller fighter for 135. And if Teo could do this against Shakur, who is moving up in weight, not accustomed to fighting at 140, you could go to the body to slow down Shakur, make him uncomfortable, and aim for that liver shot. I don't give a damn who you are. If you take a good liver shot, that's going to slow down everything. Your legs are going to shut down, and you're not going to be able to move. You're basically going to be like paralyzed in the boxing ring for that time of trying to recover from a liver shot. That's like the Hail Mary shot to land if you're going to land a body shot in boxing. But I think Teo should do that. Next, Teo should win the counter-punching battle. Like I said this for Shakur, but Teo is a good fighter that normally wins the counter-punching battles when he's in the boxing ring. And that's the best version of Teo, when he can land the counter shots and win the counter-punching battle. That's the best version of him, because that leads to Teo opening up the playbook, landing the power shots to frustrate his opponents, make them miss. And that leads to Teo hurting his opponents and then He's a businessman. Like, he's someone that will cater to the crowd and give the fans what they want to see. He's a showman. He's not a knockout artist, but he is a showman, because if you guys watch Teo over the years, he'll land the counter-punching battle, or win the counter-punching battle, land the counter shots, and that'll open the door for Teo to land the power shots. And that actually leads to Teo doing the Ali shuffle, having fun in the boxing ring. You definitely saw that in his latest performance in May when he fought Arnold Barboza last year. So I think that should be a game plan for Teo, so he feels comfortable in the ring as the later rounds go on. And last but not least, exchange in the pocket. Now, I think Teo has to be the aggressor, because like I just said, Shakur has the option of fighting at his own pace, at his own style, boxing off the back foot. So Teo cannot wait around for Shakur to engage in the fight. He has to be the aggressor, put his foot on the gas pedal to make Shakur uncomfortable for probably 12 rounds of this fight. So I think he has to make Shakur box, because he could jump out to a lead if he's the aggressor, landing more significant punches that wow the judges. And we have not seen that in Shakur's career. What happens if he's not comfortable boxing off the back foot? What happens if he has to engage in a fight? What happens if he has to fight coming forward and being the aggressor, if he's down on the judges' scorecards? We have not seen that as Shakur. So that is very important for Teo to be the aggressor, make Shakur Stevenson box. And like I said, if he lands the power shots, if he wins the counter-punching battle, if he lands the more significant punches, depending on how the judges are going to score it, he could jump out to an early lead and then play it safe if he wants, because then Shakur is going to have to be the aggressor, and you could possibly frustrate Shakur because he's never been in that situation. So I think he should be the aggressor here, fighting in the pocket. And when he fights in the pocket, this is the unpredictable version of Teofimo Lopez. He lands the lunge shots. I know if you guys watched that fight nearly 3 years ago, the lunge shot that he landed on Josh Taylor several times, the 1-2 combinations, the power shots, the overhand right, that's one of Teo's best punches, and the uppercut. To do this in the pocket against one of the best defensive fighters, if you could do that and be the aggressor early, and then make Shakur engage in the later rounds to possibly catch up or take the lead, he could have a good advantage of winning this fight. So honestly, I cannot wait till next Saturday. This is honestly going to be a fight that we all remember for a very long time. But there can only be one winner. With that being said, I'm going to go with Shakur Stevenson to defeat Teofimo Lopez by split decision. I like Shakur become the new WBO and Ring Magazine World Champion at the super lightweight division by a judge's score of 115 to 113. I think it's going to be a very close fight, but this is 50-50, guys, and I'm really on the fence, but I'm going to go with Shakur, and I know it's hard to bet against Teo. I know he's the underdog on a lot of betting books, and he always rises to the occasion in championship fights. He did it against Lomachenko. He did it against Josh Taylor. He did it against Arnold Barboza. But, guys, styles makes fights, and I think if Shakur, he's going to rise to the occasion. I think if Shakur could be alert defensively, fighting the Philly shell and the high guard, he's going to frustrate Teofimo Lopez and make him miss a lot of shots. We're talking about Shakur, who is the best defensive fighter in the game, the best defensive fighter in boxing since Floyd Mayweather retired. And I've took a lot of time scouting to see who could possibly win this, but I go back and look at the film. As good as Teo is, he's not good against fighters that move a lot in the boxing ring and fighting in different lateral movements. You go back and look at that Sador Martin fight that Teo had back in 2022, a close competitive fight, but Sador Martin was giving Teo a lot of problems, and he was a fighter that fought in different lateral movements. You look at that fight against Jermaine Ortiz nearly 2 years ago when Teo had problems against Jermaine Ortiz. A lot of people said he was running, but at the same sense, he was fighting in different lateral movements, making Teo miss. And I've seen Teo miss a lot of shots on film against those fighters. And Shakur is a fighter that fights in different lateral movements. He has good footwork. He fights well off the back foot. And he has a great defensive game plan every time he gets in the boxing ring. So I think Shakur can win the counter-punching battle against Teofimo Lopez. Again, if you're in the Philly shell or in the high guard, Teo can miss. He can catch Teo off balance, win the counter-punching battle, land the jab, land the body shots to slow down Teofimo Lopez. And I think he will have to exchange in the pocket against Teo. You saw he had to do that in sequences when he was last in the ring against William Spada. Now, obviously, Spada is no Teo. Teo is a much better fighter. But we're talking about Shakur, who's going to have to take risk in this fight. He could be in a situation where he has to play catch-up on the judges' scorecard. So you're going to see Shakur do a lot of aggressive things to make sure he gets his hand raised and become the new world champion in this division. I just like Shakur's chances to win this fight. And also, if emotions are running high, I'm going with Shakur because I've seen Tio frustrated in the boxing ring against Adora Martin. I've seen it against Jermaine Ortiz. I even saw it in the loss against George Kambosos back in 2021. So Shakur can find a way to use his boxing IQ to frustrate Teofimo Lopez. I think he's going to display one of the reasons why he can win this fight, having the better boxing skills. I like everything that I said, and I think Shakur is going to become the new WBO or Ring Magazine world champion at 140 and become a 4-division world champion before turning the age of 30 years old. But that is my fight prediction between Shakur Stevenson and Teofimo Lopez.